Good evening and welcome to the emergency episode of the Cheese Room podcast. Apologies for being late, albeit I am not as late as Caller usually is. We had some technical difficulties backstage. And yeah, I couldn't figure out what button I had to press because it's been so long since I've hosted a show. But joining me on this momentous day for Tottenham Hotspur, I have got two fabulous guests. We have got our resident student, James the First. James, how are you feeling?
Feeling pretty good, especially about the news that came out today. Feeling good. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure as always. And Seb, how are you feeling?
Yeah, good. Let's dig down into what it actually means, but yeah, it's certainly a positive thing. So happy days.
Absolutely. I think to start off, I've got no run sheet because it's an emergency, so we're just going to chat absolute rubbish, I think. But just to start off, just to break it down. So what is happening is we've got this equity release from ENIC of £150 million, which I believe they equate to 3.75% of the club's value. I know Diver's not quite sure, our resident accountant, as to what that means, but either way, we've got it. And as far as I'm aware, it doesn't affect anything to do with financial fair play, which is another absolute bonus. It's not a loan. We don't have to pay it back. Win-win, 150 million extra in the kitty. That is in addition to any player fees that we get, Champions League money, and all the other revenue streams that goes into the transfer budget. So exciting times to be Tottenham Hotspur fans. I believe the first time we've ever had this kind of cash injection into the club since ENIC have been the owners. Seb, what do you think this could mean? What do you make of it all?
Well, I think it's a grab, if you like, in terms of Antonio Conte, and I think some people might argue it's 3, 4, 5 years too late, but to me, what it shows is that Levy and ENIC are learning from their mistakes, or have learned from their mistakes, where this equity or this funding, if you like, which I think is aimed at, the funding is aimed at improving that squad and keeping Antonio Conte happy. Of that, I don't think there is any doubt. The timing of it, if this had come out in March or something like that, but we're a week or 10 days away from the transfer window opening. We've heard everything that Antonio Conte said this season about the club need to show their ambition. They need to show me that they want to fight for titles, not just for top four. And this, I think, is allied with that. The timing shows us that, I think. And as you say, it's important to understand it's 150 million pound, and it is literally like an injection of funds. James will know from playing Football Manager, if you manage a top level team in terms of finance, then you get these deals come by, these kind of telecoms deals, they dress it up as, and things like that. Essentially what it is outside funding directly into the football club, and that funding has come from ENIC, and it's a good day for all people connected with Tottenham Hotspur.
My mic is having an absolute moment. Sorry, that just came out a little bit there. Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And I think we can't stress enough the timing of this. All the reports, Ali Gold's YouTube video yesterday, where he was saying the noise around the club is very much that Antonio Conte is going to get exactly what he wants. Player A, not player B, like we've done in the past, i.e. Lo Celso, Bruno Fernandes. None of that business. Player A, what Conte wants, and just give him everything that he wants, and it's very exciting times for Tottenham. James, what are your thoughts?
Oh yeah, most definitely it is that. I mean, just looking at this quote from Daniel Levy, Davo's least favourite man in existence, he talks about, of course, a world-class home, which it is, but he's talking about how the additional revenue will, quote, enable us to invest in the teams and support our ambitions to be consistently competing at the highest levels of European football. I mean, it can't get much more clear than that, can it? Coming from Daniel Levy. He's basically saying, Conte's our guy. We're going to give him the investment he needs to keep us at the top of the game. ultimately this is 150 million, and I imagine not literally all of it, but a very large amount of that is going to go straight into the team to improve us and to keep us at our top level. Because end of the day, the Champions League is worth so much, and keeping us in the Champions League, challenging for titles, making sure the stadium is packed, that is an investment that will make the club better financially anyway. So it makes sense even from a financial perspective, because we need to be in the Champions League. We have a much bigger stadium that brings us in the revenue, and Champions League is worth so much, and we can't afford to slip. Now that we have Conte, there's no one better than Conte we can go and get. So back him, and we will be there for the next 5, 6, 7, maybe a decade in the Champions League at the top, competing, which is what they want.
I mean, I certainly hope so. And it's certainly making those lot down the road run a bit scared today. Even some United fans trying to give Spurs fans grief on Twitter. It's a glorious day to be a Spurs fan. Absolutely. Some of the comments. Oh, sorry, Seb, go on.
I think the interesting thing to note is obviously when you're talking about United is that, this isn't leveraged. There's no borrowing involved in this. This is a direct cash input. It's really important that we acknowledge that. It's nothing that's got to be paid back. In the case of United, it's not some money that's been withdrawn from an American sports team, and built on mountains of debt and paid back on the never with interest or anything like that. This is direct, pure. Essentially, it's pure profit. And I mean, looking at it from a business perspective, if you think that they reckon now that Champions League, the Champions League games that we will host, obviously we'll host 3. We'd hopefully host more. But the income in that, now obviously it's not profit, but the income on that is around £6 million a game. And if you carry that, as James says, the aim is to carry on in the Champions League both this season and further forward. There aren't actually that many games when you take in the win bonuses and being in the Champions League and the TV revenue and all that you'd actually need to be in to get that money back. Now, I'm not saying ENIC want that money back, but in terms of making sense to inject that money into the club, it's a no-brainer.
Absolutely. And I've seen some comments, do we have to pay it back? No, it's not a loan. It's a profit injection back into the club. Releasing their shares back into the club if you'd like. And as far as I'm aware, Gavin, it's additional to the Champions League money, player sales, Prem money, any money that we would have had. This is on top of that. So that it boosts what we can do. And it means we don't have to sell players before we can act in the window. We can do our business early, get players in, and then worry about selling players later on, which hopefully will mean we're not left short when we sell someone and then can't replace them. So, yeah, definitely positive news for the club. You can't complain, really. Other comments in here, I've seen this a lot in reaction to the news, James, about does this say to other clubs that we've got loads of money, we're going to splash out? I mean, as far as I'm aware, it's a legal obligation that we have to announce these sorts of injections of funds, and other clubs are going to, where the club announces their accounts publicly, other clubs are privy to all of that information anyway. So I don't think it makes too much difference. What do you think, James?
I think we're a LTD, right? Which means you have to publish financial information legally, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. Okay, good. I mean, there's always the fear of Man United syndrome, if you like, paying 80 million for Harry Maguire. But it's not that situation, right? I mean, Daniel Levy is still presumably handling negotiations in some capacity, right? And everyone knows he's the hardest man in football to get a deal with. I think, if anything, it strengthens our position in a lot of cases, because, particularly in player sales, because teams know we don't have to sell. We don't have to sell for small quantities. We want to sell this player, but we're not going to be, taken up the road. So it gives us a strength in that position. For Bergwijn looks like he's probably going to leave to Ajax. Well, we don't have to sell for 20 million. We can hold out for a lot more. So it gives us strength in that position. Maybe, we pay an extra 5 million on a transfer or something, but if it means we can go get the players we want, and they're going to be pushing to come to here. We're in the Champions League. We have brilliant facilities. Sorry for sounding like Daniel Levy for a second. We have brilliant facilities. We have one of the best managers in the world. We have some brilliant players at the club, and we're looking to take the club forward and win the Champions League. Unless you were at maybe Madrid, City, or Liverpool, I don't know why you wouldn't want to come to Spurs. It's really that simple to me. So again, maybe the odd extra million here or there, but I don't think it's going to be that significant. We're not United. We don't, or City. People know we don't have infinite money. So
definitely. Seb, what are your thoughts on this?
As I said right at the top of the piece, the time is now, really. And I think it's fantastic. We've spoken so much on pods and on YouTube about, making the most of what you have. And as James said, we've got a world-class manager. We've had that since November. We've got a world-class stadium. I think we all know that. We've got world-class fans. It's all very good having a world-class stadium. You need to fill it week in, week out. You need to start creating the atmosphere that we saw against Arsenal and at various other points this season. As James said, I think any player worth his salt, especially with the World Cup, what is it, 6 months away? If you get asked to come to Tottenham Hotspur let's suppose as an attacking midfielder, right? Which I think we all kind of think that we might need, a creative presence in the middle, just before a World Cup. And you know what? You're going to get a lot of traction because any ball that you feed is going to feed Son and Kane. The likelihood is they're going to put it away. Your assists are going to go through the roof. You're going to look good playing for us. So I think it's fantastic. The other thing that I would hope that the money is put towards is tying down certain players that we currently have. I think the only thing that could top everything that's happened this week, or everything that's happened over the last few months, obviously with Conte getting top four, there's two things actually. The first is naming rights that we still haven't got. If you imagine that sticks another 150, 200 million on the top, and then I would absolutely love to tie down Antonio Conte and Harry Kane. And I think we'd all be delirious if that happened.
I can see it happening. I can see it happening this summer. I can see them both signing new deals. And I just think where we are now and where we were 8 weeks ago, I was at Burnley away. It was one of the most depressing nights of my life. Honestly, the drive home, it was pissing it down with rain. It took me 45 minutes to get out of the car park. I didn't get home till like 2:30 in the morning. And then I got home to Antonio Conte's post-match interviews, which was just depressing. And to where we are now, it just feels like a different club. I tweeted yesterday or today saying that this is the most connected I think I've ever felt with this club, with the team. And when you consider the happy times we had with Poch, this just feels even more special than that. I think this team has overachieved more than any of us could ever imagine. We've got the board finally doing the right thing, backing the manager. We've got world-class manager who isn't going to bottle things in the big games. It just feels incredible. You've got other fans getting even more salty because they're scared of Tottenham Hotspur. Little old Spurs are scaring the big ones. Chelsea, United, Arsenal are a bit irrelevant, but even them, they're quivering in their boots at the prospect of Spurs having this money to spend. World-class facilities, world-class manager, world-class players. We're on an upward trajectory, aren't we, James?
Oh, most definitely. Funnily enough, you say about other fans getting annoyed. I saw on Twitter, of all clubs, a Man City fan getting annoyed at this, and that made me laugh. But I wake up actually looking forward to watch Spurs, and I'm thinking, oh God, I've got to watch Spurs today, like it was the entirety of the Mourinho era. Like it's great. I like supporting Spurs again. I want to go to games. I want to watch Spurs play. It's a completely different feeling. Back to like that Champions League run, basically. It's the same kind of feeling almost. I'm excited to watch the games and not even feeling nervous anymore ahead of that Norwich game, which did say it was going to be a cakewalk and told you so would be, and it was. But I don't know what more could be going well for us at this point. I think if Conte sees that he's going to be backed, he'll stay. Why wouldn't he stay? He wouldn't have just come here for 18 months if he was going to sort of thing. He was only, talking like that if he thought he wasn't going to be backed. But if he's going to be backed with that money, then he's going to be happy. He's going to want to stay. If Harry Kane sees a top manager and signings coming in, and he sees the club actually want to try to win stuff and to challenge for stuff, he's going to say, well, I'll stay here, sort of thing, you know? I mean, there's no way he goes to City now. So I think both of them are going to stay for at least a couple more years, you know? So it's positive. I can maybe envision a trophy of some kind for Spurs, which is only
Mate, we're winning the quadruple next season. We're going to do what Liverpool couldn't, and we're going to win it all next season. We're cleaning up.
Well, we're better than Liverpool. We didn't lose to City this season.
I wouldn't get carried away too much, and it's just keeping a lid on things. One thing that I considered today was obviously a lot of criticism. I've said it myself as well at ENIC and Levy, was that 5 years ago when we were challenging for titles. And he didn't invest. We didn't see this sort of announcement then that we've seen today. But I look back on that. It's interesting that you mentioned Man City, and we were talking about other clubs, United and Arsenal and stuff. If you remember the year that Leicester won it, every single club was screwed of the big clubs. Liverpool were nowhere. I think they might have even finished like 7th or 8th that season. That might have been the season they got Klopp in. I can't quite remember. Chelsea, nowhere. That might have been the season they finished 10th. You know, a lot of clubs were really, you know, down and having to kind of do a complete rework, if you like. I wonder whether Levy thought then he was onto a good thing and that really didn't need investment. We were the solid, stable club then. We were going to Chelsea and winning. We were thrashing United. It was all very easy. And whether he thought then, well, I can kind of do this without much investment. Now, I think, especially with the Chelsea buyout, with the Newcastle buyout, they'll be going great guns up, no doubt, in the summer. With the fact that Liverpool and Manchester City are so far ahead, and financially, you know, Liverpool have done it a bit differently, so credit to them. But financially, those teams are a long way ahead. If you can't build that stadium now and not invest, it'd be like a lame duck. It would just make absolutely no sense. So it's not even that he's being forced into it, but just as a businessman, you've got to back up your shit, basically. And he's put us in the position by hook or by crook that we're now in Champions League. Well, you've got to go for it. And as I said on the pod previously, you know, I think this is the last season where 4 teams qualify. The season after, I think it's 5 teams. This season, you need to make sure you're one of those 4 teams. United are going to have a huge rebuild. Newcastle, I think, are a danger. Chelsea, we don't know what's going to happen to them. Okay, so I would say 3rd is certainly up for grabs. Let's not say silly things like we're going for the Premier League and all that. But solidify that top 4, go for a trophy, have some brilliant glory nights at the Lane or whatever they decide to call it, hopefully in the next few months. And we can't do that without investment in this summer and this money, as you say, on top of these player sales. You know, we've got 100 million quid's worth of player that I think we're looking to sell this summer. You know, I would think Harry Winks, I would think Bergwijn, obviously Lo Celso and Dembele. I'm sure there'll be 1 or 2 others. I'm sure players like Tanganga and Rodon, if they're not sold, will see themselves out on loan. Carter Vickers, they reckon is 6 million quid, adding up to 10. All this mounts up on top of this, on top of Champions League revenue. Yeah, so there could be a good few 100 million spent. And then on top of that, there are players that I'm sure we are after who will demand big contracts, but are free. So if you can get 1 or 2 of those in, then that doesn't affect the bottom line. One other thing that I wanted to raise that I've seen a lot about today, because there's a lot of social media speculation about the deals for Kulusevski and Romero.
Yeah.
The Kulusevski one is going to be held over till next year. And the Romero one is apparently needs paying this summer. However, I would guess, and it is only a guess, that a lot of people are worried that people can come in and scupper those deals. So I don't know, for instance, a Man City could come in and buy Kulusevski from underneath us. I can 99% guarantee that cannot happen. There is no way you take a player on loan, pay his wages, pay a huge loan fee. I think it was on like 8 million euros in January, and leave yourself that open to that happening. And on the Romero deal, yes, we've agreed to buy him because the first year was a loan, but that I would doubt very much that 40 million euros has to be paid in one hit.
Yeah, I think it's over 5 years, 5 financial years we've got to pay.
Most deals now are structured over the term of the contract. So whether that's 8 million euros a year or something similar. And it's even the same with free transfers where there's a signing on fee. Normally that signing on fee is paid in yearly increments. So, all of this is, we need to remember this. This is a lump sum going into the club, and yet we can spread out our outgoings over the course of 4 or 5 years on these transfers.
This is a good point made by Sam as well, one of our Patreon members, and you can see how to join Patreon on the ticker below. I imagine that some of the 150 million would be to cover wages as well as fees. I think that makes sense. I think we'll keep an amount of that to cover the wages, but I think the majority is going to go into the investment of the squad. Do you think, James?
Yeah, probably. I mean, player wages is a significant outgoing for like any top football team, or any football team, right? From non-league to top teams, it's going to be a reasonably high percentage of your turnover. We're actually one of the lower. Our player wages net as a percentage of turnover, haven't explained it very well, is quite low compared to a lot of the other top teams in the Premier League. So so even if that is the case, that's not too bad, right? But I mean, the other thing to remember, right, is that we're on course to be the highest matchday revenue team in the country. We're probably going to surpass United because London prices, right? So even if that is true, that's not taking a major hit on our ability to go into the market and sign players, So it's a good point. It certainly will be used for that. I don't expect to see like exactly 150 million net spend this summer, right? But we're going to spend.
We're not at a standing start. This isn't. We've got no money and 150 million's come in. There's a wage budget that is already part of the profit and loss and everything else that's already been accounted for. So yeah, it's not like a new spend that we're gonna have to find. As James said,
when you're taking into consideration Giovanni Lo Celso and Ndombele and the players, even Brian Hill, if we were to sell him potentially, you're taking those wages off our books as well. And Ndombele's on 200k a week. That's not. I mean, it makes me feel sick to think that we are still paying that waste of space, 200k a week, but we are where we are with him. But with players going out, I don't think Harry Winks is on bad money either. So yeah, we're going to be clawing back some wages in player sales also. But yeah, I think we're certainly not skint. We're not skint as a club. I think this is really positive. I think we can go out and we can sign those A players. Bastoni we're linked with heavily. Kostic, if we wanted to go for him, we can go and get these players. We've got the draw to do that now. We've got everything is there for us to be as successful as we possibly can be and eventually compete with Liverpool and City. Those two can't go on forever. Like there's got to be a time where the sort of, I'm trying to think of the word, the momentum shifts a little bit. They're going to have to go for a rebuild at some point. And Seb, I know you've got to go, so if you could just give us your closing thoughts on it all and what you think. Well,
it's a good day. As we've said, there's nothing to moan at here. Anyone coming on saying, I've seen stuff, this should have been done before and all that. Forget the past, as you say, as you just said then. Things change, things evolve. At the moment, we are fighting to be on that top table. And from what I can see, we're doing everything we can in terms of recruiting the right manager. Over the last year, you'd say recruiting the right players, and now looking to recruit even further and take that extra big step that's needed to push us that little bit further on. So no complaints here. Fantastic.
Perfect. And just, I think Jacob, I was just on a stream with him on Josh Pavitt's channel, which was brilliant about the transfer window as well. This sums it up perfectly. The time is now. It just feels like the time for everything to be ticked accordingly. Kane, Conte, injections, signings, challenges. It can all be done. Come on, you Spurs. James, does this just sum it up perfectly?
Yeah. Be happy. Believe in the future. It's gonna be good. We're not some little team playing in the Conference League because that's West Ham. We're a big team, and we have money coming in. Although it would have been very funny if United ends up in the Conference League. I don't like that. But you know,
imagine Ronaldo playing against NS Mura on a Thursday night,
and they still probably lose.
Well, we did, so we can't really say.
Yeah, we can't talk.
Well, some Arsenal fan said I had a short memory, and he sent a picture of that result, and I was like, well, your memory's even shorter because we just beat you 3-0. So, yeah, but it's fine. That's not going to happen in the Champions League because we're going to be playing big teams. We're going to play at least one big team in the group stage, you know. So that's just going to be so good to watch. Big football, and we're going to actually have a chance because Conte knows what he's doing. He's played in he has played in these matches, but he's also managed these matches, hasn't he? Time is now. Yeah, it is. Now is the time. You can't dally about it anymore. I mean, there's no excuses not to really kick on, invest in the club, and take us to the next level. If ENIC and everyone at the club is serious about us being there, now is the perfect time for it. And it seems like they're doing it. So perfect.
Absolutely. And I think the way to wrap it up, because this was an emergency show, it was only ever going to be for about half hour, just to get these lovely people's thoughts and obviously all our watchers' thoughts as well on this momentous day of Tottenham Hotspur news. I mean, the key here is get the business done early. We've got the money there. We don't need to wait to sell players. Get it done early. Get those players to South Korea. Get them taking part in this pre-season. And I think we've got a very, very bright season ahead. On that note, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Seb. Thank you, James, for joining us on such short notice. And until Friday, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.